Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody here is doing well. My name is Steven, and here I'm joined with my co-host.
Hey guys.
And this is episode 2 of FumeChat. So thank you all very much for tuning in. We're actually in Long Island City today. A really wonderful setting, so I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much for showing me around, bringing me here. It's a really cool studio.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So in episode 2, we have an interesting topic today. We're going to be talking about flanker designations and what should the consumer expect. So first things first, let's delve into a bit of a glossary here. What is a flanker? Because I've actually gotten asked that question several times in the past, where somebody will say to me, what is a flanker? What do you mean? You know, why are you calling these things flankers? So what is a flanker exactly?
Flanker is basically when you take the original fragrance and you release a flanker would be like a subsidiary of that fragrance. Like, so let's say you have a Pour Homme and then you have a Pour Homme Sport, a Pour Homme Intense. That's it's the same fragrance, but, a second nature of that fragrance. Taking that original, spectrum and changing the notes a little bit and giving it a fresher take or more darker gourmand, take, that kind of thing.
So we see that the flankers do go in many different directions.
Right.
So we can have some that are on the lighter side, the airier side, some that are a little bit on the sweet side, like you mentioned, the gourmands, and then we can have some that just feature a particular note.
Right.
So I think we've seen that a lot, and a lot of people seem to jump on the bandwagon. One note that I've seen as of late is oud.
Tonka.
Or tonka.
Oh my God, lately.
Wow.
Everything is tonka.
Yeah, I know. They proudly display it in the name of the corresponding fragrance.
Correct.
And I think what that does is it kind of gets the ball rolling, because people will smell a fragrance and they'll read the name, Tonka, I've heard about this before.
Right.
So they become familiar with it.
I think oud, not wanting to cut you off, I think oud was really great, and great in the sense that every company wanted to jump into that oud bandwagon. And I think maybe over the past year and a half or 2 years, I think Tonka has been the one that everybody wants to, it's hot right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know John Barbado's put out a nude fragrance.
Right.
And I remember even myself in my fragrance journey a few years ago, I didn't necessarily know what oud was, but I remember looking it up and reading about it, and it's an infected wood and it's supposed to smell like this and it has these nuances and these, and I said, if you want to. But I just remember...
Pardon the noise, guys. There's some people moving some stuff outside, so if it gets noisy, I apologize.
You can't hate the hustle. We're doing our thing. And by the way, thank you all very much for tuning in. Mohammed, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to try to shout you guys out as we enter here. And there go the comments right there. So we're all prepped up for this one. So the first question that I think we should tackle, now that we talked a little bit about the different directions that they can go in, the notes that they can encompass, is what are the different designations? So maybe, of course, there are way too many to name. I'm doing rather well, Mohammed. Thank you very much for tuning in. And Mohammed, very quickly recommend the Beast fragrance for you. I'm going to say Interlude Man by Amouage.
The Blue Beast.
And that's another thing to talk about too. With flankers, are they predominantly designer, predominantly niche?
I think designer, definitely.
Yeah.
Rarely see niche companies doing flankers, right? I can't remember. Well, they do like Premier Figuier, Premier Figuier Extreme.
Yeah.
They jump into that a little bit, but not as, not as occurring as we see with designers, which is like an yearly thing or seasonal thing.
Absolutely.
Every season there's flankers,
You know what I think of? Well, now that you mentioned the Figuier, I'm also thinking about Killian, where they release Straight to Heaven Extreme.
That's true.
So we're seeing it trickle over into the niche market. I think it's, like you said, I think it's predominant with designers as well.
But I think niche companies are starting to understand that there's an opportunity there, and I think they're starting to venture more as opposed to before.
Yeah.
I think they're starting to really go for that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a wonderful book that was brought to my attention. I forget the name of the author, and I know I'm beating myself over the head with it, but it's called Sentence of Virgin.
I've heard of that.
And Carlos actually brought it to my attention, our good friend Carlos.
Okay.
And he has been annotating in the margins and highlighting certain lines of text. And there was a particular line, I believe in that book, or the author of that book, where she mentions that the decline of these stronger fragrances was CK1. And I think that was right around the time, or maybe a little bit after that, when we started seeing more of these sport fragrances. And I think that's when people started going for the lighter CK1 was really when people started going for the lighter fragrances, the ones that are more sporty, aquatic.
Sporty, correct. That's, I think, the explosion of the sport genre. Right?
I think so.
Yes.
I think so, absolutely. Now, so the different designations, we have sport. I want to say eau fraîche. Lately, we've seen a lot of privé. We've seen fragrances that are named after different notes, whether it be tonka or oud. I think we've seen a plethora. Now,
intense, extreme.
Intense, extreme. Now we've even seen, going between eau de toilette and eau de parfum.
Concentrations, flankers, right? Cologne.
Yeah.
Perfume, right? Toilette. Even like the Chanel's. People are complaining about the new privé line that supposedly is an have a call.
I'll get it later.
So like, Chanel, the private collection, supposedly discontinued eau de toilette and re-released it as eau de parfum, but they're weaker than the previous eau de toilette.
Get out of here.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
So.
And some of them, like I was smelling another one yesterday after not having smelled it for about a month, but Carlos owns L'Homme Ideal eau de parfum. And the eau de parfum is very different from the eau de toilette. And I remember when I tried the Dolce & Gabbana eau de toilette versus the eau de parfum, it smells the same to me.
I understand.
Right, but the performance is
I get a little better on the eau de parfum. But the smells, like you said, apples to apples.
Yeah.
There's not much difference. But sometimes with the flankers, you do get it's like a whole different fragrance.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be just the concentration, but the fragrance smells totally different.
Would you say that the flanker designations create a level of confusion for the consumer?
Somewhat, I would say.
Because going into it, you don't really know if it's going to smell the same. You don't know if it's going to be amped up. Like now, I feel like people are straying away from saying intense, which I do think L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum is an intense version of the original, but there's no intense label or classification on it. Guerlain, yeah. But although it smells different, the only difference is in the Eau de Toilette or the Eau de Parfum, which I think is a little misleading.
I agree.
Because I think if you're in the store, and Narciso Rodriguez has done this too on the women's side.
Okay.
I think if you're in the store and you see an eau de parfum and you're like, you know what, I used to own the eau de toilette, but I remember it lasting a few minutes on my skin. I wish perhaps it would last a little bit longer. Let me opt for the eau de parfum version this time around.
Better performance, right.
And then you'll smell it and it'll be a different fragrance.
Right.
So I think that something like that could be
frustrating. Yes.
A question I had, and I want to see if you, because I really don't know the answer to this. It seemingly, sport and eau fraîche are comprised of similar components.
Correct. Fresher, right? More citrus.
Yeah. So eau fraîche, I guess, would translate to fresh water.
Right.
So sport, I'm thinking of something sporty, something you can wear during athletic
Going to the gym or outdoorsy events. Sure.
Now, do you think that maybe in the industry,
they're not using that anymore as much as they used to in the past. Sports, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So do you think that it is getting played out where people are like, you know what, people hate sport, so let's stray away from sport. Let's call it fresh or eau fraîche.
100%.
So I think it's just another way to sort of lure people in.
Right. But in all essence, it's the same kind of flanker.
Yeah.
It's a sportier flanker or a lighter flanker. They're just choosing to, it's a play with words just to get people interested. But I agree. I think the sport is played out, and I think the eau fraîche has taken its place.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I wonder then, under that premise, if we can say the same thing applies to intense and extreme.
I would say so.
Which one came out first? I don't even know.
Intense, I think. Dior Intense, wasn't that one of the first ones?
Yeah, that's right. Intense.
2007.
Now that I think about it, I heard of intense before I heard of extreme. So I would agree with you. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. But now, what about privé? Because I think we're seeing a lot of privé, Carolina Herrera privé,
I think that's a lot of designer companies trying to capitalize on the Privé lines. You know, like you have Armani Privé and all those Privé lines. Because, like for example, Parker Rabanne doesn't have a Privé line, but they released a Parker Rabanne 1 million Privé.
Yeah.
So, or Carolina Herrera has a Privé line, but they put out that Privé fragrance that a lot of people expected so much from it, and some people were, you know, not so happy with the end result because they thought it was going to be a more, you know, a limited thing, and you know, it was just a flanker.
Yep, absolutely. What I think is there's a certain level of ambiguity. So take a company like Paco Rabanne, for example. Today, believe it or not, I'm wearing a fragrance which is an interpretation of the Paco Rabanne fragrance. But if you take something like 1 million, they have a 1 million intense, and they have a 1 million Privé. Now, personally, I love the Privé a little bit more than the intense.
And they have that absolute perfume also. It was limited edition. I don't know if you remember that.
The 100.
It had a lot of rose in it.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
Limited
I remember
edition.
that one. I remember that one. Yeah, absolutely. And then there was like a 100 carat or something.
Right.
And
so
then many to
the
keep up
intense
with.
and then the Privé.
Yeah.
Right.
What I'm thinking here is, had Paco Rabanne released the intense and the Privé version at the same time, and the sales associate sprayed both and had you smell it and said, all right, which one do you think is the Privé, which one do you think is the intense? I wouldn't be able to tell.
That's true.
I mean, they're both amplified versions of the original.
Correct.
But what is it about the name Privé that allows it to stand out as its own designation?
Or even more special at that, because a Privé has a connotation of something that's more private, more special, more limited, right?
Yeah.
Like a private collection, or... So smelling both the intense and the Privé, I don't think you'd be able to, I wouldn't be able to tell which one's Privé or not. You know, because like you said, both are amped up versions of the original EDT.
Yeah.
So it could be confusing.
Going back to sport, do you think, and I'm not saying anything negative against sport fragrances. Sure. Recently I tried, going back to Guerlain again, I tried L'Homme Ideal Sport.
Is that the blue one?
The blue one.
I haven't tried it. I heard great things about it.
It's actually pretty good. And it smells a lot like the original. But do you think that Western culture is to blame for sport fragrances?
Perhaps. I remember in the early to mid 90s when Polo Sport came out, the blue, remember? Cylindric?
I do remember that.
It was actually my signature scent for my 2 last years in high school. So I loved it, and it was a sport fragrance. It had pepper, you know, it was very aromatic. I used to get compliments with it, you know, very refreshing, invigorating. And it was right around the time where Acqua di Gio came out. I want to say like 96, if I'm not mistaken. So, and Acqua di Gio was never called Sport, or they never actually released an Acqua di Gio Sport, I don't think.
Not to my knowledge,
right?
I don't think. No.
So, I think it's a Western thing, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we started this whole thing with the sport flankers.
I think so too. Even if you go to France, from what I hear, I've never been to France.
Because Ralph Lauren is an American company, and I think, was Polo Sport the first sport flanker called Sport?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. As a matter of fact, if you guys
know, please.
Let us know. Sometimes the viewer knows so much.
Absolutely.
You know, it's great to be enlightened. So we talked a little bit about, and we didn't mention Profumo, but there are far too many designations to name. I mean, we could spend 2-3 hours talking about them all, and which fragrances are our favorites and whatnot. When did each fragrance come out? I think we should talk about which ones are sort of pervasive in the market today. So I guess to start, Profumo. I think we're seeing a lot of Profumo, but it's usually reserved to certain companies. Like I know Armani has released the Armani Code Profumo, the Acqua di Gio Profumo. But for some reason, the sport is still lingering. Like the Guerlain fragrance just came out.
I know.
So it seems like there are some that do really, really well with consumers. There are some that do not so well. Now, are there any flankers that if you see it has a certain designation affixed to it, you would avoid?
Me, myself, like personally?
Yeah.
I usually don't gravitate towards the sport flankers for some reason.
Yeah.
I just, you know. But the funny thing is, like Terre de Hermes, for example, I like the Eau Fraiche better than the original Terre de Hermes. Much, much more.
It's so good. It's
so
really
good. So, but again, that's an Eau Fraiche, not a sport. Usually when I see sport, Yves Saint Laurent L'Homme Sport. I didn't like that at all.
Right.
At all. So usually, to me, 90%, of the time, if I smell a sport fragrance, I'm not going to really like it. So it's usually, if I see it, I'm usually not going to go for it. So the sport is a flanker that usually doesn't catch my eye.
As you were talking about that, I just got reminded of a completely, in my opinion, an unnecessary fragrance that had been released as of late, which is Nautica Voyage Sport. Now, I personally... Do you really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Now, listen, I actually like Nautica Voyage Sport, in full disclosure. I like the original Nautica Voyage. I think it was a great fragrance by Maurice Roussel. But a fragrance like that is sporty enough, I think.
I know. I agree 100%.
So
you don't need a sport flanker.
That's what I mean.
It's that kind of fragrance.
It's crazy,
like
isn't it?
Gio. I don't think you need a sport flanker of that.
How do you... So now it's like, okay...
Unless you amplify the citrus on it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Because Acrid Gio is already so citrusy and so aquatic and exotic, unless you really amplify the bergamot and the lemons, really make that, spark, then you can maybe make a sport flanker. But I think it's sporty enough.
You're right. I think if we took a fragrance like, say, Armani Code, right? And they do have an Armani Code Sport. I don't think it was too successful. But with a fragrance like that, you have the tobacco, you have that olive leaf note that they claim is in the note breakdown. And I think there are certain fragrances where the composition really warrants the creation of a sport counterpart.
I agree.
I think with a lot of fragrances, now it's just maybe because, that name is working well, so it's like a cash cow. It's a money grab.
Correct.
So I think a lot of companies are seeing that. And so what about seasons?
Before we get into that, let me ask you a quick question that just occurred to me.
Please.
What company do you think really capitalizes on flankers? One comes to mind right away.
Calvin Klein.
Calvin Klein every year, right? With
And
the summers. Yves Saint Laurent too.
Oh
with,
my gosh.
With the L'Hommes and the La Nuits.
I didn't even think of that.
I lost track.
I didn't even think of that.
Frozen, Electrique. I mean, it just...
Old Team,
it never
Le
stops.
Parfum.
And they do La Nuit flankers, L'Homme flankers, and they have sports, Libre. It's just never ending.
Yeah, and I think under that same premise, people could say, well, maybe the Angel Men line is consistent of flankers because you have the Pure Malt, the Pure Havane, the Ultra Zest. So it's so I think what I want to get across in this episode is that flankers are not just the addition of a suffix, as it were, but it can also be a change of the entire name, right?
Correct.
So you can go from Pure Malt to Ultra Zest, and it'll sound like it'll be a different fragrance,
but it
is a different fragrance.
Right.
I mean, you can't compare Pure Malt to Ultra Zest.
Absolutely not.
But what these companies are seeing, I think, is they know that the A Men bottles, they have that iconic look to them.
The star, yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. People know it. They're going to recognize it and they'll go for it because it's something new, it's something different. It'll catch their eyes because they know the bottle. Yep. So they can call whatever because it has that brand recognition.
Absolutely. It just pops.
Yep.
And then there will be some that smell like the original counterparts. So there's
pure leather. It smells very similar to the original.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that's the closest to the original, in my opinion. Right?
Absolutely. That's probably the closest. The one that's not so close is maybe what's the white? Pure Energy?
Pure Energy. Wow.
I didn't
that's
find that
in a total different direction.
Yeah.
Very sporty, very fleeting. Reminds me of Iceman, to be honest with you. It was very close.
Oh, yes.
The juniper berry.
Is that the discontinued one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I remember trying that.
You like B-Man?
I have B-Man.
I like B-Man.
Yeah, I like B-Man.
That's the stepchild of the whole brand, but I love it.
B-Man
it's like a woody spicy.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. And then it was Pure Chili. Is B-Man the one with the rhubarb?
Yes.
I have B-Man and it has a metallic container.
Correct.
That's what it's
a special one. Right. And the red star. But the red star also with the black rubber container is taste of fragrance.
Taste of fragrance.
The fragrance come baptized the Pure Chili.
That's right.
Because of the infused chili in there, which I love. Really cold
That's
winters.
an interesting one too.
I love that scent. But it's one that's not really much, doesn't get much play or talk, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's different. It has enough, components in there to make it very different from the original. You have that signature A Men, but it goes into a whole different spicy and a whole different direction.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
I think before we start talking about the Calvin Klein, the summer
editions,
flankers, and I think Calvin Klein is not the only brand, so I don't mean to throw them under the bus, nor am I suggesting that they're not good releases.
They do summers every year as well.
Yes.
Just like Calvin Klein.
That's right. That's right. So, and
Jean Paul
Gaultier has a seasonal
releases.
flankers.
Yeah.
But I do see the comments rolling in, so I do want to take
Should
a
we take
moment
a few moments and answer a few?
to address some
Sure.
of them. So I addressed that one. Hello, Haney, Rafael, welcome to the conversation. George, thank you for joining us. And LK Dark, thank you very much for joining. I know my wife is in here as well, so hey babe, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I missed your call, but I'll get back to you very soon. So this gentleman asks, when layering fragrances, do you suggest spraying on top or in separate areas?
Do you layer?
You know, I actually layered today.
Oh, okay.
I layered this fragrance, which is actually a Zara fragrance. It's called Mangold. It's $9. It smells like Paco Rabanne's Black Excess, and I layered it with Molecule 01.
Oh, wow. I love to use Molecule 1 as a pry, like to put it in first and then put something else, because you get that sandalwood, wood chip kind of thing. And then, but usually I do like Steven. I do a couple sprays of something that's a little lighter and something heavier up top. That's usually how I do it.
Exactly. So, and that's what I do. I do spray them in the same area. Tannen, thank you very much for joining in. And George, indeed, that was a very good question. Haney, hello again. Haney says, we do make a lot of flankers in the Middle East. You should try white oud and white musk and Turkish rose. I know the Middle East, very famous for the rose and agarwood combinations.
Oh, yeah.
And rose is predominantly, from what I hear, either a unisex note, but it's completely androgynous in the Middle East.
Absolutely. And it became very prominent in Western world now. All these houses now, niche houses that introduce fragrances, here for sure they have a oud rose fragrance combination, right, in their lineup.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're shying away from it, and that's a good thing.
Sure.
I think it's doing really good things for the industry. Mohammed, this is perhaps a question for Max. He seems to be the expert. What do you think about the House of Matriarch? What do you think about their perfume's performance?
I get, like I said, I think I reviewed Kazemi and Albatross, and I get 6 to 8 hours, no problem with them. You know, I like the way they smell, they perform on me. I get at least 6 hours, so. I
tried, I had the Discovery Kit. It's like a hexagonal cardboard box.
Yeah.
And one of them, Coco Blanc, is it?
Oh, what beautiful.
I love
white chocolate.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I get at least 6 hours out of the House of Matriarch fragrance, 6 to 7 on average. And like I said, I usually spray my clothes, and when I do, I get a day's work, no problem.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say I got similar performance.
And Albatross is actually a really good aquatic with a lot of different nuances, a little, you know, because we're talking about flankers and sport flankers.
Sure.
It has that aquatic vibe, but it has so much more to it, and it's one that I'm going to be really rocking right now, spring and summer. I really like Albatross.
Yeah, that's a house I need to spend a little bit more time with. So I know Coco Blanc, I've tried it, I love it, and I tried them all, but that's the one that I gravitated towards. Lizer, thank you very much for tuning in. Kyle, thank you for joining us this evening. Haider Aswad asks, could you kindly recommend a Tom Ford scent for the current season? I would say just hold on a little bit because they're coming out with Oud Mineral. I tried it yesterday. It's oud with an aquatic overtone that smells salty.
Is that a private blend or a regular collection, Tom Ford?
I think it's a private blend.
Oh, wow.
Private blend.
So it's going to be on the pricey side.
Yeah, like what, 230, 250? I don't remember.
I think Great Vetiver is great for this time of the year too. Spring, summer. I like the EDT better than the EDP, but they're both great.
Yeah. Patrick Echevarria, thank you very much for joining in. Patrick is always tuning in. We really appreciate that. Alexander, thank you for joining. Colin, thank you for joining. George says, Intense is different to my nose, more green, and Privé makes me a little sick. It's a little too sweet.
1 million.
You know what? Let's use that. You're right. Let's use that as a segue in talking about the designations again. I think what we're seeing is that Privé, I do agree with you, George. It is a little bit on the sweeter side, and I can see why you say it makes you sick. I think with a lot of the fragrances and the designations, it's also compounded with a different look to the bottle. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I noticed this when I did a top 10 I think back in the fall or winter, the bottles are usually black and gold.
For the brevets.
For the brevets, but also the fragrances that are, I guess, within that sort of olfactory family. Darker, a little bit sweeter.
More gourmandish, like, yes, I agree.
Because I was looking at the Armani Code Profumo, it's like gold and black. I was looking at Bulgari Man in black with some gold accents. Carolina Prevera CH for Men Privé, black and gold.
Yeah.
And I remember just putting them on my table and looking at them.
Clicked, right?
And I was like, man.
There's a pattern here, yeah.
Your own parfum. And I said, what's going on here? Like,
absolutely.
Does that convey masculinity?
It's a marketing thing maybe, right?
I think it is.
There's a formula, there's got to be.
Even the 1 million Privé, they made it darker. They didn't make it black.
Brown, right. Almost like a bronze, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a bronze copper.
Very true.
So I think sometimes you don't even need to read the name. I think if you take a look at, and they put like
the presentation.
But sometimes they even add coloring to the juice to make it bluer or darker. So I think a lot of times it's not even just the name, but I think it's the color of the juice that lures you in, or it's the color of the bottle that lures you in.
I know Electrique had a really interesting color. I thought it was the bottle, but the actual juice is blue, like dark blue.
Is it the juice?
Electrique, yeah.
I should know that because Carlos and I actually reviewed off
I
the
decanted. Yeah, it's blue. I was like, wow. I thought it was the bottle that had a tinge to it, but no, the juice is actually an electric blue.
Yeah.
Like your eyes. No, seriously, it was blue like this.
That's insane.
Crazy.
And I think they're the first ones to come out with that. Electrique.
Yes.
So, I think what happens is a company puts out a fragrance with a certain flanker name, and then it'll,
catch on.
It'll catch on.
Like
and other
fire,
companies are like, oh wow, like that did really well. Let's do something
similar.
Yeah.
It's true.
I don't know. I think in the long run that could be a good thing if the Jews follow suit.
I agree.
If it follows suit and they say, you know what, so and so fragrance was really popular and it's called whatever gold. Let's release our gold version, but let's also use a similar note. In which case, I think it's going to be popular. But if they're relying on the name alone, then
that could
I think
be problematic. Yeah.
That could result in a bit of a disappointment.
Flop, yeah.
So we have we talked about our least favorite. Do you have a favorite flanker? If there's one that, or maybe just taking a look at your collection.
Intense was always something that I liked. I did like the 1 million Intense. I really enjoyed the Diorum Intense. I think the red, Polo Red Intense.
Yeah.
I tend to usually like the Intense versions.
Me too.
I'd say that's probably one that has a better ratio of positive ratios with the
good
flankers.
batting average.
Right.
Absolutely. I love intense fragrances. I've also seen a few extreme. Like I know with Polo Red, then it was intense, then extreme.
Yes.
And it's almost like one was like...
Which is good too. The
Yeah.
extreme I liked a lot. Did you like the extreme?
I did. It was very fruity.
I know.
It's like they took that, what is it,
Berries.
raspberry, then they amped it up a little bit.
I liked it a lot.
So now it's like, what's the difference between intense and extreme? I mean,
it sounds like the extreme is going to be even stronger than the intense, right?
see, that's what I think. Like,
Because when you think about the adjectives, right? Oh man, this person's really intense. Oh, this guy's really extreme. Like, you're really taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
That's the connotation that I think I get, at least, that it conveys.
yeah.
Would you say so?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, once you put it in perspective to someone or
And
something.
they came afterwards too.
That's it
So
too.
I think they're going up.
Yeah.
They want to convey that. We had red intense, red extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. I do see that. It's almost like one is a superlative of the other, or like a step out from the other.
Right.
I'm thinking of when I walk into Macy's and I'm looking on the shelves, and I know they have the staples, they have the classics. I know they have the usual CK1
Top
summer.
sellers, right.
There's the Eternity Summer, the CK1 summer. I think flankers come and go. I think the flanker and their particular designations, they come and go.
Yeah.
You'll always find the original Amen. You'll always find the original Isimiyaki.
The original Eternity.
And I think that, it could be a good thing because for a lot of us, well, we don't want the flankers, so we prefer the original. But for a lot of them, like I had this conversation recently, I really like CK1 Summer 2014.
Well, some flankers become really good, like Issey Miyake 2009, I think is the one that people love. And then it becomes discontinued, so it's a shame because it's almost, I don't like to buy those summer editions because exactly that. If I really like it, then I'll have to buy a whole bunch of bottles, like we were talking about the Zara thing, that they discontinue a lot of stuff. Because, like you said, they come and go.
Yeah.
So if you love it, too bad. You're going to have to look on eBay and pay an arm and a leg because it's hard to find now.
Yeah.
Like Issey Miyake 09, it goes for big bucks, you know.
So as a consumer, if there is a flanker that you put your nose on and you know you're a huge fan of it, my recommendation to you would be get at least 2 bottles of it. You know, if it's something that you see yourself wearing long term and you're pretty set, you know you're not going to want to change your mind in a couple of years, then
Get 2 to 3 bottles, yeah.
I would recommend getting 2 to 3 bottles. But that's only if you really
love it. Right.
Yeah. So, what flankers are worth purchasing, and are there any that are not worth purchasing? I think we kind of answered that in our previous question. But I think ultimately, you shouldn't, they say don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a
disregard
fragrance
it without trying. I agree.
Exactly. So just because it's a sport designation and you haven't had good experience with other companies that have released fragrances with that name sport, that doesn't necessarily mean that this new company is going to do things in the exact same way.
It might surprise you.
It might surprise you.
I
I mean, there are always going to be similar perfumers, right? There are going to be different methods of creating that particular fragrance. So I think that what sport means for Guerlain might mean something very different for Armani, might mean something very different for Nautica.
Yeah.
So that's why I try not to have a bias. I try not to be prejudiced when I go into the store. And even though there are some that I think they have sort of acquired a negative connotation because of they're sort of tainted by our personal experiences. Where if I see a sport fragrance, I'm like, they're going to ruin it. They're going to ruin it. I know when they came out with Encre Noir Sport, I was like...
I didn't like it. Did you like it?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. I prefer the original.
Me too.
But that was the one where I was like, okay, it's not awful. You know, if somebody gifted it to me, I would wear it.
Did you try the L'Intense version?
I did not.
I didn't love it either.
Really? Oh man.
I felt it was like exactly the same as the original. Not the sport, but the original. I didn't feel like it was really... I don't think it really warranted that L'Intense. It didn't last much on my skin at all.
Huh.
I wasn't impressed with the Encre Noir L'Intense. I'd much rather stick with the original.
So I think that that's another, something to... It could very well be its own topic, absolutely. Like how well do the flanker designations correspond with the performance of that fragrance? Right. But a nice moral to take away from this is just because it's called intense or extreme doesn't necessarily mean it's going to last for a heck of a long time.
Performance, right.
Exactly. So again, that's why I think both Max and myself would recommend that you always go out there, you try the fragrance for yourself. You really never know at the end of the day what you're going to get. It might end up working really well on your skin.
That's true.
There are some fragrances I know work well on everybody's skin. We're talking about, maybe some Montals or a kerosene or something. But
they're known to be screamers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so what do you think is the future for flanker designations? And also, do you think that there are some notes in the industry that are resonating really well with consumers?
We kind of talked about Tonka. I think Tonka is really note of choice now. I don't know in the near future what will be the next one. Oud was certainly, I think, from 2011, 12 up until maybe like a year and a half ago, really prominent, and everybody had Oud fragrances. Tonka, I think, took it over for the time being. I don't know what the future brings. Like, do you foresee anything really being the next one?
It's funny that you mentioned Tonka. I was thinking about, because, I think Tonka, in the name of fragrances, has been around for quite a while. We think of Tonka Imperial by Guerlain.
Sure.
But I know that Fève Delicieuses came out. And it might not be, it's the dominant note in that scent. I think now people are thinking, okay, coumarin and tonka bean as a note, coumarin is used in like 95% of all fragrances. But I think now they're saying, well, we can actually make it the star player. Like it's not a bad it's not a bad note, you know?
Right.
When you take a look at Mandarina Duck Pure Black, Versace Eros, Azzaro Wanted, all of these fragrances are super tonka bean dominant. Even Invictus by Paco Rabanne. Commodity just came out with a tonka scent. So
Oh, wow, I didn't know
I
that.
think, and it actually smells
It's called
very
tonka?
similar, just tonka, and it smells very similar to Fête Delicieuses. It's good. It's really good.
I'm gonna try that.
So I think, not to say that commodity is following the bandwagon, because you see everything. You see moss, you see vetiver, you see leather, you see. So they're trying to, cover their ground, cover
Sure.
all of the bases. Now, you mentioned oud before, and I do want to answer your previous question, which is, what do I think is
The
going to
next
be the
note.
next big no? Do you think oud is phasing out at all? Or do you think it's losing steam?
I think it lost some steam.
Yeah.
It's still hot. It still sells. It still does well. Companies are still putting out oud fragrances, but I don't think it's as hot as it was 2012, 13, and 14.
Yeah.
Over the past couple of years, I think it did lose a little steam.
Yeah. I've tried fragrances by Feel Oud. I've tried fragrances by Ensar Oud, and these are like serious oud scents.
You've been to the Arabian oud store in New York City?
I have not, but I heard so
I
many
haven't
great
either.
things about it. I would
Same
love to
here.
take a visit there one
Same
day.
here.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a live shoot there.
That'd be awesome.
Like a
Yeah, if
visit.
you want to hit it up
Yeah.
together one day, I would love that. But I think what these companies are doing is they're keeping the name, but they're lessening the amount of oud in their fragrances.
I
Or
agree.
they're hiding it, or maybe they're using an
Very
accord,
light.
just something that's very easy to get along with.
Easy to wear. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The reason I say this, I tried the new Tom Ford scent, Oud Mineral, and it smells really good, but I think it's more of an emphasis on the mineral, less of an emphasis on the oud. And I was like, well, I think the name will help it sell.
No, mineral is in what? What element?
Just based off the way that it smells, it was like aquatic and salty. So I almost
Okay.
picture like a marine mineral
Vibe to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the bottle in the Neroli Portofino collection color, or is it like the brown and gold?
I smelled it from a decant,
Oh, okay.
so I'm not
Okay, so
sure.
I don't know.
I don't think it's in the Neroli. It might be. The way that it smelled,
Could
it
be a
might
totally
be.
different color. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So even something like the Tom Ford fragrances, we know that if you pick the ones that are in the white color, like Santal Blush or the clear transparent ones,
Right.
those are going to be a little bit, or White Suede was one of them. There was a musk
White
too.
patchouli.
I think so.
And there's a Soleil one.
Oh,
With
yes,
one-
yes,
one-
yes. That's one of the more recent ones. And then if you look at the blue ones,
More aquatic, more because that's from like the Amalfi Coast, and it's like the Azura, like all of the Mediterranean softer fragrances, like the Mandarina di Amalfi, all those fragrances. You know it's going to be more on the lighter side,
Yeah.
or quote unquote sportier fragrances.
is there any other company that does that? Where they will
color
take certain-
coding their bottle.
I know John Barbados always adds like an extra little flair with each bottle,
Oh yes,
same shape.
The aquas, he does the little threads, right? The
That's a really
I
nice
love that touch.
performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
the blue one that came out last year, I love. Forgot what it's called now.
I have
Aqua
it. I have it
something.
too.
It has a cool pistachio note in there with the aquatic. It's so like unique.
Is it Artisan Aqua? Or am I wrong?
Artisan Aqua Blue, right?
Blue. Yeah.
Love that one.
I have that one too. That one is really, really nice.
For Vibes, they do great scents. I just wish that they performed a little better
Mm-hmm.
with them. It's usually hard to go past that fifth, 6th hour mark. Very hard
Yeah.
with them.
You're absolutely right. There's one that did really well for me, and that was the Platinum Edition. It was also
Okay.
the 10-year anniversary edition.
Yes.
That one did really well for
The
me.
silver, like the metallic bottle.
And it has like a little necklace on it with a like a
Little tag,
rectangular pendant.
Yep, I have that one. It's nice.
It is nice.
Very nice.
Okay, so to answer your previous question, Max, I think I don't see a particular no, but I just think we're going more in the direction of sweet scents.
Gourmand, yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna say. I think we're definitely into the gourmand era. Definitely.
I mean, when you look at the 70s and 80s, we had the fir, we had the oak moss, we had,
Fougères, lavender.
great, like heavy hitting, powerful,
Barbershop.
masculine fragrances.
We're talking about Brut before.
Yeah. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think it's like, well, let's do the opposite. Let's
go
release
the
some very
quiet.
light, inoffensive, both of, I mean,
Citrus.
mid-90s, we're talking about Acqua di Gio, like we mentioned earlier,
CK1,
CK1.
CKB, light musky.
Yep.
I mean, Polo Sport, right? And then Issey
All of
Miyake. They're all lighter fragrances.
And I think now they're seeing that, you know what? It's so, to me at least, it's hard to differentiate one from the other. And I think these companies are like, well, if we really want to stand out, if we really want to put our foot in the door, so to speak, I think we need to really amp things up. And we need to release something that is unprecedented. So I think there have been a lot of masterpieces. Dior Homme, I think, is a masterpiece by Olivier
agree.
Kolsch.
He broke the mold with that one. Absolutely. It's very unique. It was different than anything else up to that point for the male audience. So it was very gutsy.
Yeah.
And I think they're really going for that these days. A lot of these perfumers, you know, let's put something out that, for the most part, I mean, the flanker thing, it's still, I think, quote unquote, a cash cow to a certain extent. It's a way
Yeah.
for them to, emphasize in sales. But I think perfumers are always trying to have that new groundbreaking fragrance.
Yeah.
And I think the gourmand is definitely, like you said, sweeter dessert-like fragrances. I think is definitely where it's going.
Yeah. So I wonder if it would be of any benefit to the consumer. I think it would be. For them to, in addition to looking at the flanker designation, to also look at the note breakdown. If there's some way that you can gain access to it, whether it be going online, visiting websites like Fragrantica, base notes, or even Macy's official website.
Sure.
Say there's something that was just recently released, Macy's is the first one to carry it.
They usually have the note breakdown.
I think you should look it up and say, oh, okay, this does have tonka bean, this does have vanilla, this does have this resin that smells sweet. So maybe it's going to be worth it for me to try it out.
And it's funny because it's clear that they're really going for these dessert-like fragrances, because you look at Tom Ford Extreme, they had the Kulfi dessert. And then Salvatore
Yeah.
Ferragamo has the tiramisu dessert.
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah.
they're really going for that dessert accord.
Yeah.
You know? Does Uomo has Tonka, or Tom Ford Extreme has Tonka as well? I don't remember.
I'm sure they both do.
Probably do.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't even think about that. And it's funny because I recently sampled a house called Ganache Parfum,
Okay.
and every single fragrance is a
Based
different
on
dessert.
I think I heard of that company. Is
Yeah.
it good?
They're really good. They have like a chocolate lava cake, they have strawberry panna cotta, lemon eclair, and they smell wonderful. So I think now we're getting to that point where people want to smell sweet.
You showed me two Carne Barcelona fragrances when I was at your house that I absolutely loved. Palo Alto, right?
Palo Santo and El Born.
Oh my God, I wanted to drink it. It was
I know.
so good. So
Isn't
good.
it?
Oh my God.
It's so good. I gave
It was like creme brulee, like flan. They were amazing. They were amazing. I loved them.
absolutely incredible. I mean, Palo Santo, the best gourmand vetiver I've ever tried. Boozy,
I want to get that
milky.
because I love vetiver. I
Yeah.
want to get that. It's a totally different gourmand take on vetiver.
And it's not a slouch in the performance department either.
Fuegia has one that has that milky. I forgot the name now.
I have it.
Right?
I have it.
It's-
Not Hocuatl.
Nope. It's a
Um,
long name. Cubillo or something?
Quilombo.
Quilombo.
I have
Oh
it.
my
It's so
God,
good.
It's so good. So good.
It smells like milk.
Warm milk.
Yeah.
Flan or something. Like caramel. Oh my God.
At times, it can kind of remind you of buttered popcorn.
True.
It really all depends
Sweet
on
butter
what mood you're
popcorn.
in.
Yes. But I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now these are more artistic scents, I think.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I appreciate the art that goes, in it, but it's not something that you could wear regularly, I don't think. You could,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't, right?
I agree. I would feel a little self-conscious wearing something like that to work. I would.
Right.
I would. So I think this was a really, really good discussion.
It's nice.
And I really genuinely want to thank all of the people here for tuning in. And I would like for us to take a moment to take a look
Answer
at
a
some
couple
questions.
questions. Sure.
Answer some questions.
And wrap it up.
And I do apologize that it took until the latter half of the streaming to answer these questions, but we really genuinely appreciate that
Thank you
everybody
guys for
here has
tuning
been
in.
tuning in. So Colin, welcome. Samuel, scent of the day for me is I'm wearing Zara Man Gold. It's a clone of Paco Rabanne XS, Black XS, and this one cost me $9. What's your scent of the day, man?
My scent of the day is Brute.
That is amazing.
Isn't that funny?
And your wife gave you a huge compliment.
Gave me a thumbs up on it, and she never liked it before, so...
That's incredible. That's
funny
awesome.
enough. I'm probably going to get some flack for that.
Well, you know what? I'm right there with you. I own a bottle of Brut.
Okay.
I do.
I was going to the city and smelling a lot of things today. I went to Fume, so I wanted to just put like, a nice aftershave, so I just went with Brut.
You know what? I've been messing around with aftershaves as well.
Okay.
I recently discovered Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements.
Oh yeah, I saw the review you did on that. Yes.
And the
Curious to
line,
try it.
there's so much diversity.
Wow.
It really is. The one that I just tried was sandalwood and oud, and it's called Sangre de Drago. But I was like, oh wow, like I guess
dragon's blood, right?
Dragon's blood.
Oh, interesting.
I think people have a certain perception of how aftershaves are going to smell.
Right.
So that one company in particular was pleasantly surprising. I don't love them all.
I'm gonna try.
I don't love them all, but a lot of them are really good. Okay, wonderful. All the gentlemen listing their scent of the day. That's amazing.
Oh, nice. Thanks for sharing, guys.
Yeah, that is truly, truly awesome. Talking about Mugler, talking about Dolce & Gabbana, ideas for the next Mugler. What do you think?
Oh my God.
An inside source told me that they're working on something, and there was a code name for it. Gosh, I think
was it pure something or just a?
No, it was like a letter and a number.
Wow.
Like
X9.
like F4 or something.
Wow.
And I don't remember it, but somebody recently told me they heard about it through a sales rep or whatnot.
Based on what?
I don't know.
No.
Nothing, no information, just... And that same
It'll be
person...
here before we know it.
Yeah,
Probably for the fall, right?
Exactly. Oh, and you mentioned Tonka, Pure Tonka.
That was their latest one.
Yeah. So we can see that as a flanker gaining a lot of steam. Samuel writes Pure Oud. So I don't know. I can see that.
They never did an oud one, yeah.
They might be a little late to the party with that one,
so.
but maybe
Never know.
better late than ever, depending on how it smells. So Raphael, it's actually our fault. We sincerely apologize. He didn't get the alert of the second FumeChat.
Yes, we
could have
talked about
promoted
this
it.
and we apologize.
Really, really sorry about that. We'll definitely make sure to announce the
Next time
third
around,
one.
yes.
Man, thank you very much for tuning in. And Daniel, thank you for joining us, fellow perfumer Daniel Gallagher in the house.
Pure puree.
We're talking about gourmands, right? Pure chocolate. Can you imagine that?
That would be great.
That would fly
I think I
off the
actually
shelves.
posted something about that on Emporium of Scents because they did a special 25th anniversary for the women's one, and they were selling or giving those chocolate stars. So I said something about, hey, how about pure chocolate?
Yeah.
That would have been great if they did it. That would be great.
I think if they're smart enough, they will.
They would.
They will.
Chocolate liqueur infused. Oh my God.
Oh my God, that's how they need to pitch it, like a Kahlua Accord. I don't know if they're allowed to use that name,
But if they paired with them and did like a Kahlua pure
can't-
chocolate, oh my God, home run.
I would blind buy
I would
it.
buy it right away.
I would blind buy it. Yeah.
Maybe they're listening. Bueller, pure chocolate, pair up with Kahlua.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Chocolate and coffee.
Daniel Gallagher says also triple P, pure pink pepper. All right, I can see that. Hello, Fabio. Hello, Jeremy James. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. Luigi, greetings to you too. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say.
Appreciate
Says
it.
the
Thank you,
Masters of
Luigi.
Fragrance. Do you know how the gray market works?
I actually answered that in one of my FIV videos that I talk about. It's fragrance informational videos. I actually talk about that if you go and check those out. I don't know if it was in the second or third one, but it's definitely in there. So check it out. I explain exactly, the surplus and why it becomes available and, distributors, I don't want to go into it right now, but I explain it. Companies have distribution, points in America and throughout the world, and there's a surplus, and that's how they become available.
Yeah. So maybe we can link it down below when we upload it to YouTube.
Sure.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Daniel asks, what layer combinations do you foresee with Molecule 04? Molecule 04, I've had the opportunity to sample it. It's based off of Javanol, which has like a sandalwood scent to it.
I heard great things about it.
Essentially, anything you'd want to sample or layer with sandalwood, sandalwood does add a creamy sweetness to a particular fragrance. So I think you're pretty versatile in regards to what you could sample it with. And also, I would say that for the molecule fragrances, the ones that I've sampled at least, I think I've tried 1, 2, and 4, they're all on the lighter side, right? And Brox and ISO Super. I would imagine even the number 3, the Better Barrel acetate one, would be on the lighter side as well. Hater, you're absolutely welcome. Not hater, but hider. No hater in here.
No haters are welcome.
Oh, Samuel, that's true. CK1 Shock. He says it's a pity that it didn't catch on.
That was pretty good though. I liked it.
I love it. I do.
I own it. I like it.
For me, it's like a mix of Bond Number 9, Andy Warhol, and Burberry London. It's like...
I liked it a lot.
Oh, man. Dunhill Desire Extreme. Is that a scent?
That's coming out.
Oh, is it?
It's coming out right now. I posted about it. It's going to be like a dark red bottle with the black insert.
I think I just saw it on Fragrantica. Yeah.
Dunhill regular Desire was pretty good back in the 90s, so hopefully that will be good.
Yeah. Chad, thank you very much for joining in the stream, my friend.
Chad.
You can push our buttons, don't worry, we're not going to get mad at you.
Your wife again.
I know. She's more of a manger. Not quite sure what you mean by that, babe. Roger, thank you very much for joining us. Have you tried the new Bulgari Atlantique? Aqua Atlantique? Oh, no.
Aqua Atlantique. No, I have not tried that one. That's flanker of what?
Bulgari, the Aqua series.
I have not tried that one. The last one I bought was last year's Amara, which I wasn't a big fan.
I have Amara. I like it because I feel...
the notes clashed a little bit.
In the opening they do.
They clash.
In the opening
they get better, but I can't get past the opening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. I like the original Aqua.
Oh, I love
that
it.
saltiness, the seaweed
Aqua
note.
and Aquamarine I love. I actually layer them
Both, yeah.
when it's really hot. I love them.
Yeah.
But Amara wasn't a huge fan. I actually tried Atlantique, I think, at a store. I don't think I loved it.
It was a little underwhelming for me. I wasn't crazy about it either. Yeah, and I've had a friend who tried it. He wasn't crazy about it either. So, I have a question. What really made Bleecker Street a gourmand? Seems a bit aromatic than gourmand.
I don't consider Bleecker Street a gourmand.
Me neither.
I think it's an aromatic. Does it have lavender?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember. I know it has blueberries, which is great.
Yeah. Like a grassy...
green, fresh cut grass. It's a very aromatic scent.
Yeah.
Even has a little bit of citrus in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yes,
not. I don't think there's anything gourmand in there.
I don't think so either. I think gourmands from Bond Number 9 are very far and few between.
Right.
But Bleecker Street, I wouldn't. Even though, yeah, you can argue there's like a sweet component to it. I wouldn't go as far as calling it a gourmand, though.
Right.
So. But thank you very, very much for the question, Charlie. And Samuel says, this week getting my attention. Zadig and Voltaire. This is him, a little linear, but it's pretty nice. I've tried that one. It's pretty good. I forget who the perfumer is, but I know my friend Chad. And Chad, you're watching. Chad actually had me try it, and I believe he's uploaded our video.
Review.
So if you want, you can go ahead and check my opinion on that video. But it's interesting that there's such a variety here. Costume National Spice Bomb Extreme or Bulgari Man in Black. What would you guys choose?
I love Costume National. That's a Dominique Ropillon fragrance, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Some people get discouraged. There's a lot of cloves in the opening. I love that fragrance.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Spice Bomb Extreme I haven't tried. Men in Black is great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But I would go with Costume National.
You personally would?
Yes.
Okay. I really like Spice Bomb. I mean, I've owned Spice Bomb since it came out. I don't even remember the year, 2011, 2012. And it's been a favorite ever since. And I tried the Spice Bomb Extreme, and I like it because it does smell pretty similar to the original.
A little stronger, you think?
A little
Performance-wise?
stronger. A little stronger. I think I would go with the Spice Bomb just for the memories. You know, I've worn it so much, so it's a great fragrance. Did we do this one? Can you please recommend a Beast fragrance from Tom Ford?
No.
What is a Beast Mode fragrance from Tom Ford? I would say
Amber Absolute.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking of like Tuscan Leather, Tobacco Vanille.
Oh, they're all Beast.
Yeah.
But I think Amber Absolute's the screamer.
Amber Absolute, yeah.
Tobacco Oud is very, very potent.
Oh yeah,
too.
Tobacco
But
Oud
that was
is good too.
discontinued. It's a little pricier now.
Yeah, unfortunately. Just stay away from the blue line if you're looking
Yes,
for
they're not going to be screamers.
the Amalfi Coastline. That's right. Daniel also chimes in, the Encre Noir Sport Juice is also blue. You'd never know with the dark glass bottle, but if you decant it, you'll see that it's blue.
Oh wow, that's good to know.
And let's see, when are and this is the last comment. So Chad asks, when are you guys coming to Toronto? I want to go to New York City, but my supervisor will not allow me, stating that we have a wedding to save up for. So it's been a while since I've been to Toronto, Chad, and I have really fond experiences of being in Canada, even though I've only been to Canada twice in my life. If I do go up to Toronto, it'll probably be not this summer, but maybe next spring break or next summer.
I think maybe we should plan something like a get together, because there's a lot of Canadians that we, friends with in the fragrance community. Maybe we should plan something and do like a fragrance community meetup in Toronto.
I would love that.
For, like you said, around that springtime next year.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it.
I'm a little spoiled. I think we are, because all of these guys are coming to New York City.
Right.
I mean, I've met Timmy from Imagine Scent here. I've met
Chad.
Sai. I've met Chad. All of these guys are coming to New York, and it's like,
I know.
I rarely leave this little hub that I have going on here.
Same here.
And there you go. So my wife answered your question. We can do next summer. So that would be wonderful. Michael, thank you very much for tuning in. And let's just end with this one. Where can I get a list of the upcoming fragrance releases? And do you know of any upcoming fragrance releases?
I think Fragrantica, if you go to Fragrantica, you press new releases, I think they're pretty good with the updates.
They're really good with the updates.
And I try to keep track and post it on the Emporium of Scents, my group. I don't know if you do the same thing, but I try to bring anything that I know that's relevant to the community. I try to post it as quickly as I can.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, no problem.
That's awesome.
My pleasure.
For me, I would say Fragrantica as well. I think Fragrantica is really good with informing us fragrances that are about to come out way before they come out. I know there's also a YouTube channel that I'm subscribed to that uploads like 20-second videos of new fragrance releases.
Perfume.org or something?
I don't remember.
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like 20-second.
It's like
really
a 20-second
snippet.
video.
Yeah.
So Fragrantica, really, Fragrantica.com. And some of the new releases, I know Ferragamo Uomo, there's a flanker coming out for that
Casual.
one. Casual,
It's
right?
like the black and the added silver
Yes.
appointments.
Uh-huh.
The bottle's the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Casual. I can't wait to smell that one.
That one should be nice, as long as it still has the gourmand nuances.
Right.
I know you mentioned the Dunhill that's coming out.
Right.
There are 3 new Montals
Desire
that are
Extreme.
coming out. 3 new Montals.
Hopefully Creed's
Viking.
It's supposed to be out this October, I think.
Fall.
Fall.
Mhm. Yep.
What else? Anything prominent that we can think of?
On the designer side, I don't know.
Midsummer, so there's bound to be a lot of summer flankers. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you all very much for tuning in. I think this was another really fun episode for
Always
me.
a pleasure.
I love
Great to talk about
filming this.
flankers. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Max. So I want to thank you very much once again for inviting me into this wonderful studio.
Always my pleasure. Always.
So,
Always.
thank you, guys. I really hope you enjoyed.
You want to leave a little thing for them with the next one?
Yeah. All right, let's do that.
You want to do the vintage
Okay.
next?
So for the
Should we
next,
consider vintage and all that?
I would love
Right.
to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So for the next episode, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about vintage perfumes. So what makes a fragrance vintage? Are vintage fragrances still around?
We see that word thrown out there so often nowadays, right? Something goes, becomes unavailable, then all of a sudden it's vintage.
Is vintage synonymous with quality? Is it worth paying the high price tag for a discontinued scent? Is the IFRA doing the right thing by reformulating, discontinuing?
Our companies
Or
capitalizing on that,
Right. So I think that that's going to make for a really interesting episode, and I'm very excited to shoot that one.
So tune in. We're going to announce, exactly when we're going to be shooting that. So please join us in the next, episode. We'll be talking about vintage fragrances.
Yeah. If you're watching this on my channel, I just want to mention that I am going to be leaving a link down below to where you can subscribe to Max's channel, so make sure to do that.
And I'll do the same when I post on my channel, so you guys can subscribe to Steven, which I'm sure all of you already are.
Oh, please. But thank you so much, Max. Once again, I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And
see you guys next time.
We'll see you next time. Take care.